Well, I'll try to start at the beginning to do some sort of linear fashion on this. You sort of do these things in interviews. But
Okay.
I'm curious about the musical roots of Fairport. It seems to me that the Beatles were very prominent influence to a lot of people. But Fairport seemed to come from another realm. You know, music seems to come from a different point.
Yeah. At the time that the Beatles were popular, we tended actually to listen to more American music. Tend to listen more to, you know, R&B, stuff like that, which was it was also very popular in Britain. You know, Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters had a big revival like in, you know, '63, '64, and I think we felt that the Beatles weren't great lyricists. You know, in retrospect, you know, I like them a lot more, but at the time we were really snobbish, and we thought that some of the emerging, you know, songwriters in America were you know, more interesting, like B. Dylan, people like that. So we tended to, you know, listen to other things.
When did the traditional, I mean, how did the traditional, the classic, when you think of the Fairport sound, you think of Jake's Reels and that sort of timeless quality of English folk music. How did that start? When did that strain start being interjected? When did you just first start noticing it? Sit back and say, whoa,
I think it was really fairly deliberate on our parts to go and find that music and to start to play it. You know, it was like intellectually we realised that there was this gap. You know, there was something we weren't doing, you know, musically, which was we weren't really being honest. All our music was borrowed. It was all really imitative, and we wanted something a bit more indigenous. So we started to research a lot more, you know, traditional music in Britain, which we kind of half knew, but not really. You know, like we used to hang out in folk clubs sometimes, so we heard a bit, you know, but not that much. And well, when we started to go into it, you know, it was a really interesting field, and I think we realised that it was our own music that we could play, and you know, and be proud of.
Well, it seems that, you know, much of British popular music, an American such as myself, largely xenophobic, you could say that, well, the British, they got a lot of the rock music from the United States. I mean,
all of it.
You guys invented American rock music. I mean, that was something, but yet you tapped into something that's uniquely British.
I suppose so. In that British style, there's still a lot of black music. You know, a lot of black influence. There's no doubt about it, especially in the rhythm. You know, a lot of it. You know. I still listen to a lot of black music. I listen to, you know, like you know, jazz and like early gospel music, because it's just great. In that sense, it doesn't matter where, you know, music comes from. You put it into a potpourri, and if it's good, you know, it stands up. You know, so rhythmically, you know, there's that very strong, you know, influence that comes, you know, indirectly, I suppose, from Africa. You know. Up through America.
Well, you started out, I mean, you know, you didn't start out at 15, but when you started out with Fairport, I mean, did you, have your goals changed over the years? I mean, did you want to ever be a rock star or have that sort of a success, or what?
I don't know, it's, we just started playing music for fun, you know, playing at dances, you know, it was a good sort of social in, you know, to be able to play in a band, you know, it gave you social opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise have had. And I suppose when we started to think about what we were doing, you know, we started to play more you know, more British music. Then that became a hard goal, and I suppose my goal has always been to play, you know, contemporary English music, which is basically a form of rock music. But it has, you know, a British root, and that's always been my goal for like the last 10 years, really, to try and you know, develop that and, if possible, to popularise it.
Well, that's interesting, because that 10 years is the period of time where you literally have not set foot in the United States, and as again an American and trying to relate, you know, just explain this phenomena of English music to Americans, we have to kind of draw on that about, you know, how are your perceptions of America? I mean, at this point, being perfected a certain style, do you think you're ever going to be able to reach us out here? You know, is that a goal of yours at this point? Or?
I think so. Well, we've always had a good reaction in America, up to a point. I mean, I don't think it'd ever be a phenomenally popular musical form in America, but we've always had a lot of interest, and I think you know, there is an audience here for it, probably as large as there is in England, in fact, because you know, not all English people, you know, like our music. So yeah, I think there's an audience here, and you know, American people seem actually fairly open to foreign, you know, musical forms, if you can call it foreign. There's an awful lot of people in America who trace their roots back to Ireland and Scotland and England anyway. So, you know, there's a stirring in there somewhere. You know, there's a deep root there somewhere.
Well, sort of the enduring Richard Thompson mystery among a lot of rock critics and fans of your music who have never heard it on the radio and have to seek out the import albums is why hasn't your music and your work, your songwriting ever really caught on to the degree that it should? As a fan, that's the question I'm wondering. Is, what do you think, in the United States, what's prevented that sort of mass acceptance that Steve I. Span got, for instance, or Ted Patel got to an amazing degree, basically tapping into the same the Chieftains got. I mean, all of them seem to, in far more ways.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've just never toured here. We've never really pushed a record here. And that's all it is, I think. You know, it's our own fault. You know, and on the occasions when we could have toured, we didn't, and then on the occasions where we wanted to, we couldn't. So it's always been hard to get here. I think next spring we will get here with a band, and hopefully start, you know, to play some dates, you know, in America. But yeah, it's just been, you know, missed opportunities. It's our own fault, probably for being too lazy. Really.
So you mentioned last night how the classic situation of the music business is that they want, if you're not incredibly ambitious, then they don't have any use for you. You know.
Yeah.
More, you know.
I think that's true. I think it's even more true now of record companies, is that they're only going for absolute surefire, you know, winners. Anything that isn't outright commercial, that they won't touch. That's certainly true in England, and I think it's true here as well. And I think this is a good thing, because I think that they're going to cut their own throats. And I think independent companies are taking a bigger and bigger slice of the market, and are doing far more interesting things. And I think, I hope that the music industry will stratify into the gold record bracket up there, and then hopefully there'll be plenty of room underneath for everything else. You know, like a fairly sizable independent market. That's certainly true in England. The independent labels are doing very well because they're the ones who are taking the risks, and they're the ones who are trying things on low budgets. You know, they're recording records for sometimes just for £100 or £200. You know, they're making really cheap records, and they sound good, but because they're not slick. They haven't been slicked over by this process. You know, this sort of recording mulch. You know, this blandness that permeates the airwaves. You know, they're doing something a lot fresher, and surprise, surprise, audiences actually prefer it and actually buy those records.